Columbia. I'm Jessica Cheung. We're coming to you live from our Vancouver newsroom with the latest update on wildfires around the province. There are over 400 active fires burning in BC at this moment. To get a better understanding of what's happening, I'm here with Mike McCulley. He is the provincial information officer with BC Wildfire Service. He joins us from Kamloops. Hello, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, good morning, Jessica.
Well, we have a crew of reporters in Cranbrook this week. They're following two wildfires, the St. Mary's River and closer to Invermere, the Horse Thief Creek wildfire, rather. What is the outlook for that region? Will it stay hot and dry in terms of the weather?
Yeah, it certainly will. Probably the warmest, driest portion of the province. We know we've seen a fair good amount of precipitation in the northern part of British Columbia, along the coast to some extent, but unfortunately for that southeast corner of the province, still very warm, very dry, trending back towards above seasonal temperatures, and also a little bit windy in that part of the province as well.
Yeah, and you did mention some of that rain that we saw in the province recently in a number of regions that you just mentioned. Did that help crews at all, alleviate some of that wildfire?
Yeah, well, absolutely it does. Anytime we can take precipitation, especially in a year with extreme drought like we're having, we'll take it. Any win is a win. Having said that, though, looking down the road at our long-term forecast, talking to our predictive services unit, we do see a really strong sort of rebound in the weather into August. We're going to see this rain continue for the north and for the coast for a little while. The south is a different story, though, and you have to also understand that with the deep drought we're in, it takes a large amount of rain to really rebound or recover from that significantly. But for our crews and our firefighters, especially in the north, we're very happy. We'll take it. Any reprieve is good reprieve.
Yeah, absolutely. And bringing it back to that southeast corner that we're talking about, that's expecting these dry and wind as well, dry weather and wind. What's the impact of, say, this dry weather and this strong wind on the wildfires that are already kind of burning there?
Yeah, there's a couple different things to think about. So not only does wind dry out the fuels, that's common sense, I guess. When you get wind, it dries out the fuels, and so our fire indices and our fire behavior will increase because of that. Wind also, helps fire. When you put oxygen into fire, the fire behavior increases. Think of blowing on your campfire. When you blow on it, it puffs up a little bit. And wildfires are no different, just on a larger scale. I think the other thing that's really important is how wind impacts our aviation resources. In the southeast, there's some pretty steep country, difficult terrain. We're always challenged to fly in those areas as it is. But when you add some really strong winds into the mix, we have to be very cautious. The crews in the air are firefighters as well. There's people in those aircraft. No life is worth risking for a wildfire. So certainly when you have that wind, it creates turbulence and it can challenge our aviation efforts as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So overall, the situation around the province, can you give us a sense of that? And if there are any kind of wildfires of note that you're especially concerned about, or areas that you're especially concerned about?
Yeah, I mean, maybe just explaining what a wildfire of note is for people. A wildfire of note is any fire that is really visible to a community or is threatening a community or some type of critical infrastructure. So, right now we have 23 of those in the province, which is a very high number. We have seen over 1.5 million hectares of land scorched by wildfire in British Columbia this year, and we're still not quite through July. So any fire near a community, anything that's threatening critical infrastructure and resources is obviously of concern to us. And we look at those multiple times a day. We're always, sort of relooking at our priorities, which allows us to refocus the assets that we have and the crews available to make sure we're focused in the right areas. That's challenging in a big, busy year like this, but certainly it's something that we do often. And we're going to continue to do that with all of the fires of note that are, nearby communities adjacent to critical infrastructure.
Yeah, and there are currently campfire bans that cover the province. If conditions change and we get a little bit more rain in some places, could that ban be lifted?
Yeah, there's a few different ways we look at whether to implement a ban or to lift a ban. A lot of it is based on the drought conditions in the indices. So how dry are the deep fuels? What is the drought code like? What are our fine fuel moisture codes looking like? And we look at all those things and they tell us what to expect. And we use those as triggers to put in put in campfire prohibitions. So certainly when we have rain and precipitation, we're looking at that in reverse. And we do that really regularly, multiple times a day. There's people looking at these indices and watching the sort of benchmarks to figure out when a prohibition should go in or out. But the other piece is we also look at what resources we have available to deal with new fires. If we did get a fire from a campfire, a wildfire start from a campfire. So it's not just about the indices, it's also about what resources are available to respond to a fire. And in a year like we're having, clearly with close to 600 international resources in our province, 1,400 contract staff working for us right now. There's two pieces of the puzzle. So just because it rains and it gets wetter doesn't mean we're in a position to lift the campfire prohibition. Again, we do look at it regularly. We understand the public are interested in that, but we do ask for their patience. There's a lot going on right now. Again, over 1.5 million hectares scorched by fire. That is the most we've seen in modern recorded history.
Yeah, and you talk about the supports that are needed, and we're getting international and local support fighting this year's fires. Can you tell us a little bit about those resources and who's kind of at play when it comes to fighting these fires?
Yeah, certainly. In province right now, we have resources from Brazil. We have resources from Mexico. Of course, our partners from the United States are always here to help us when we need, so they're here. And we also have Australians in the province right now. We are looking to bring in some resources from Costa Rica later in this week. We'll be adding additional Mexican firefighters. And what I can tell you about them is, extremely professional, well-equipped, and hardworking. There's a reason why they're here, and that's because we need them, but also because they're really good at what they do. They fit in side by side and shoulder to shoulder with our crews very well. This is something that happens, nationally and internationally on a fairly regular basis, where we're able to adjust and adapt and get support from our partners and also provide it to them when they need it. So lots of work goes into safety briefings. We make sure that they're well informed and well prepared to come onto the fire line with our staff. And we're excited to have them here and very grateful for their support.
Yeah, and we are coming to the end of July. How do you think the rest of the wildfire season will be?
We've had this little bit of rain that's come through the province, and in some areas more than a little bit. We've seen significant amounts in the north and again on the coast. But again, talking to our predictive services folks, listening to our meteorologists, we get briefings multiple times a day. We do see another warm, drying trend. So for us and for all British Columbians, we can expect to see a continued increase in fire behavior after we get through this nice cool period. We've also had a lot of lightning, and we're going to continue to see that. And of course, lightning causes fire starts. We've had over 75,000 lightning strikes in the 10 days leading up to yesterday. That's a significant amount. When lightning happens, when rain falls, sometimes the fires don't start right away. We call it a holdover lightning start, where the heat and the flames will stay deep in the ground and you won't notice them for sometimes days or weeks after the lightning comes through. So, for us, because of the amount of lightning we've had, we will be continuing to manage lightning-caused fires well into August, if not longer. And again, just watching the warming and drying trend, we will be ready to go, but certainly no end to fire season quite yet.
Yeah, and we'll be keeping an eye on that as well. Thank you so much for taking the time, Mike. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate it.
That's Mike McCulley. He is a provincial information officer with BC Wildfire Service. And thanks for joining us live today. Keep up to date on our ongoing coverage on CBC radio, television, and our website, cbc.ca/BC. And subscribe here on YouTube if you haven't already.